Chairperson and Emanuela, I think we have attempted to end the violence and harassment in the world of work. As we have said, there are a lot of instruments that has attempted to exclude this kind of challenges. C-190 is an extraordinary convention. I think you'll agree with me, because it has a recommendation with it, recommendation 206. After ratification of the C-190, it is important for all of us to fight for the implementation of the resolution 0206, because it gives the guideline as to how to implement the C-190. And I think that is very important for us to note. I've heard that other speakers have not actually touched on that one. It is then crucial that we look at that. I'm coming from South Africa, one of the countries that have ratified the C-190 in 2000 and 2021. I think also we are extraordinary because when we ratified the C-190 in South Africa, the government also came up with a code of good practice, which is mentioned in the recommendation 206. How they came up with is that they wanted to strengthen the Employment Equity Act so that it also accommodates the issues of C-190. So we are extraordinary, and we want to encourage also other countries, when they look at the ratification, they must also look at the recommendation 206. Program director,
I think they are fearing.
Yeah, sorry.
They want you to use the microphone.
Yeah. I know my voice sometimes goes down, especially if there's the sound of the echo. Now, sorry about it. Program director, let me also go straight to the questions that I was given to address, and appreciate the opportunity given to me by the ITUC to come here and represent them. They wanted me to share the experience that we had during our lobbying and campaigns and advocacy to ratify the C-190. Most of the African countries had similar problems or challenges, if not worse. One of the significant challenges was to generate the awareness itself, because you know, Minister, our continent is dominated by country. So it was very difficult to bring that up and to create an understanding from our constituency as to why the C-190 was important. I want to thank all the women that were at the 108 session of the ILO, the one that adopted this C-190, the movement. It was amazing. It was amazing. The other challenge was to incorporate the C-190 into the domestic legal frameworks. That also presented a lot of challenges in many countries, because we do have the sexual harassment policies. But those sexual harassment policies, they are not talking about the world of work. They are talking about workplaces. So for us to be able to bring the convention into the current legislation that we have, it was so difficult. To change the legislation is not a child's play. So the other one was the difference in the existing laws, as I was saying, and system that required the modification of new legislation or to create a new legislation. Political parties, ruling parties, they've got their own policies. it's not easy to change their policies, because that's why you should come start from, so that you can be able to influence the legislation of the country. You need to have a political will. So it was very difficult for us in Africa. I'm generalizing. We might have the different, as I have said, relations with our government, but in other areas they were having such challenges. The most challenge that we also had was the cultural norms and practices. The cultural norms and practices that are driven by patriarchy. It was very difficult for us to go to the community and say, this is sexual harassment. This is violation of my rights. I can't come to work and you start touching my other parts. Yeah? We can't play with that. You can't just close your eyes and all those things. So the patriarchy, the cultural norms and the practices also were the issues that make us to have some challenges, and they pose some obstacles in terms of the ratification. The second question that they said I should then share with the House was what are the challenges currently for those who have ratified the conventions? Because it's not only ratification. There are some responsibilities of the ratification. Some countries, they're not even reporting after the year. My country reported on the 1st of September last year, but they've never consulted anyone. They created their own report as compliance to the ILO. We're made aware that there is your report here, Labour. Are you aware? And then we said, no. Maybe you, Emmanuel, we wrote a letter to stop that report because it was not consulted with all stakeholders. Whereas the recommendation 206 says you need to consult before writing the report. So we think that countries that doesn't have the tripartite mechanism, where government, employers, and labor can have discussions, fair discussions, are in trouble, and they really need the technical support of the ILO. The table of strategies of the implementation of C190, we think that it should also inform the current legislation and determine whether those current legislation are in harmony or not with the C190. So during that tripartite engagement, we should be open as partners in the tripartite that these policies and that policy indeed is biased to the C190. If not, we should look at the language and the text. Analyzing the legislation, I think we already said that we need to agree that we need to define violence and harassment, because those are the two different things. There is a tendency from our governments to use the words interchangeably. Others, they are saying it's harassment, and they forget about violence. Others, they prefer to use violence because they think that this convention is only about sexual harassment, and sexual harassment is violence. So I think it's important for all of us to go down and look at the definition of the harassment as well as violation. Violence. Also, the word of the convention talks about world of work. It's a convention that was initiated during COVID-19 when there were policies of work from home. Hence, we are now talking about the violence that follows you to work. Because there is violence that follows you to work. In South Africa, recently we see partners coming to work to kill their partners. Nurses are killed by their partners at the workplace. Violence that followed you to work. I can go to Durban, where I'm coming from, talking about the impact of working from home and why we thought C19 was important to protect those who are working from home, because our homes tend to be our offices and the workplaces. Therefore, we need to describe and be convinced whether we use a world of work in all the legislation, or we use work which is not relevant to C190, or a place which is not relevant to C190. I've spoken about the recommendation 206. It talks about the core principles that are promoting gender responsive policies. It also talks about enforcement, the care of the victim, and the consequences to the perpetrator. So I think it's important for us to go down and look at that resolution, recommendation, and try to, at all times when we speak, we must also speak about the recommendation 206. In closing, all the challenges that we have, or that we are still having, ILO, they need international cooperation to provide technical assistance as well as financial assistance in those countries that are poor, that needs financial assistance. Sometimes finances can make you vulnerable to harassment and violence. I thank you.